I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. I am covering this case from my work office, so if things look a little different, sound a little different, that is what is going on here today. This case is a very, very difficult case, and so if you are not really one that follows cases that involve kids or anything like that, I totally understand. This is the sentencing of Chloe Driver. And in this case, it's sometimes referred to as a cult mom case because she was involved in a small group that had very out there beliefs, but one of their beliefs was that they did not believe in traditional mental health treatment. And she appears to have a significant mental health concern, and they were giving her CBD to attempt to treat it. The father of her child, who was is still he's one of the leaders of their small group, he spoke at this sentencing on behalf of the prosecution as a victim because this was his daughter. It is I felt the statement was kind of troubling, and so I'll be interested to see what you all thought of it. I can kind of get why the state didn't call him. They were able to get what they needed to get out of Jason. Jason was another member of this group. I wasn't sure how close Chloe remained to the father of her child, Benyamin. He's going to call himself Benyamin during this hearing. And I apologize now, the audio is bad. Okay. The audio is really bad for this hearing. Let me close some of my other tabs. If you are interested in a more thorough background of this case, I do have that down in the description. And I also have additional resources if anyone has been in a group like this. And I have my prior coverage because I covered Jason's testimony. Jason, that was some of the most explosive testimony I have ever seen. I wanted to show because we see Z in before he gets up on the stand, he was kind of standing in the back of the court. So this is the father of Chloe's child. He seems to have this he seems to want to have this presence, in my opinion. I do not know him. I can't speak on his mental health or any of those things. And Chloe just kept kind of checking in. And to me, there were times that she definitely seemed troubled by the things he was saying. All right. So let's get into to his victim impact statement. All right. We'll get from the point of swearing in because it was weird about him, because he wanted to stand for this statement, and I think he feels better than people. And I think the standing was so he could kind of stand, and also he might have been nervous, I don't know, but he wanted to stand during the statement, and everybody was like, "No, you need to take a seat." And so let's go ahead and get into this. I will also turn on closed captions. There is a trigger warning for thoughts of self deleting self thoughts towards self, and then also the death of a child. This incident occurred on December 8th of 2020. Chloe was found guilty but mentally ill. And in the state of Georgia, what that means is she will be able to remain on her mental health medication, but a not guilty by reason of insanity. She would have had more intensive treatments may have been available, and she is facing life with the possibility of parole or life without the possibility of parole. And the state asked for life without the possibility of parole. Once again, I I I can't fix the audio, so we're going to listen to this. There is a buzzing, okay? So if I totally understand if the audio because there is a buzzing in this audio that is not great.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay. You can have
If you will move the microphone.
Yes.
Please.
Is it okay to stand?
You have to talk into the microphone, so it'd be better to sit so we can hear you.
Otherwise,
Sit, sir.
is it forbidden to stand?
Can you state your name?
He just said, "Are you forbidding me to stand?" And I don't think this group likes the government. And so, I don't know. I don't even know that the judge responded to him.
Benyamin Eliyahu Ben Michal.
Okay. And can you spell that?
B as in boy, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, Y as in yellow, A as in apple, M as in Mary, I as in igloo.
I'm going to fast forward through this part because he gets to the U and he says useless. And I think that was directed toward her, which is, but
Can you tell us what your relationship was to the victim in this case?
The victim was my daughter, Anna Nicole, driver Ben Michael.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Benyamin, Mr. Ben Michael, I want you to tell the judge about what Hannah was like in life.
645 days ago, I had the most beautiful living daughter on Monday, the 5th of December, 2020. She was dressed in a tiny, prescient little pea coat.
I think this group also likes to throw out words to be smart because he said prescient little peacoat, and I don't, but like it's fine. I think this is his personality style. Someone asked if he is a sovereign citizen, and I don't know that. So they are definitely anti-established government. They form a trust to avoid paying taxes, and so I don't know that they will go by, but they definitely have those anti-established, like extreme fringe beliefs based on what I've heard. Yeah. I can definitely understand his anger. I it was a lot. It was a lot.
That was also colored pea, curry yellow. We were at a rest stop in McDowell, North Carolina, and I brought her toward her favorite thing, the arbors, in the middle of the rest stop where the grass was green and the trees were tall and the roots were old and ripped up. I like to call her Naima, which means pleasantness, and she was pleasant to all she came and encountered. The most pleasant.
Wow. So he's saying Naima because I thought Jason said it meant like sin, or I don't know. Like I thought there was something that came up about Nimpsey or something. Like I thought there was something that came up with that. And it might have been one of the psychologists that mentioned it. There was a lot of testimony.
What was her disposition and demeanor like?
While we stood at that tree, she counted every layer of the roots. She was 13 months old. She had had a penchant for trees since she was a month and a half year old. She was sweet. There are babies that are planned. We know what the opposite of that is. But then there are babies that are planned. This child was deliberate, intentional, and the mental work of 2.5+ years prior to her 9.5 months in utero and her entrance into this world. There are a very special sister with 3 babies. And by the last one, Eliana, we came up with a term. There are forward-facing babies and not forward-facing babies. I have an older daughter who's estranged, who you've heard about here, named Eiley. She was not a forward-facing baby.
So his first wife testified, and she was able to escape this group, and she is trying to terminate his parental rights and allow her husband to adopt her daughter, and I wish her all the best, because I think he currently has because I think he still has 2 wives right now. I could be wrong, but I think there's 2, and, I think one had a baby and one was pregnant based on Jason's testimony. There was something like that.
I highly cared about mommy and daddy. You put her head in your armpit and you were wherever you were, and that was not Hannah Nicole. Hannah Nicole was a forward-facing baby, meaning when you carried the baby, she needed to see everybody and smile at them, everybody in the room, as if she almost had an innate nature of knowing that she had very limited time. She had to see everything, and she'd get really, she'd let you know that she needed to be turned around if you were not holding her face forward-facing babies. My sister's little Eliana was like that. I learned to hold her that way. She wanted to be taken around. She wanted to count everything. And she was looking at those roots that day in her little coat, and she had her little curls that came over her hair. And that's my last really strong, close memory of holding my daughter, playing in those roots, those trees. Her disposition was just the sweetest baby. And I'm not saying that as biased dad. I've been around a lot of children. She was different. It's like she was hosting everybody she met. We would run. I wanted to bring the little Legos. We would run. We would play. By the time she was 13 months old, she had a real thing for little cars. We'd chase them around the room together. I'd crawl with her. Beautiful. She was really weird looking. And some babies have this and some babies don't. Between like 4 months and 7 months, they're like growing. Some things are growing too fast. Some things are growing too slow. But by 13 months old, she was so beautiful.
Did you provide photographs that you'd like to see?
I would like to, please. Yes, Katie.
See of Hannah?
Please.
Your Honor,
Please, the court.
I'm going to publish the photographs that
I wonder if he's ever represented himself, because he said if it pleases the court, but like he's not an attorney or anything like that. And so, yeah, this is, I wanted to watch this, and we are also going to watch Chloe's testimony as well. I'm trying to find a good view. I think this one will be good. I was trying to find a good view. I will keep it here.
This is me and Hannah together.
And approximately how long prior to her death was this photo?
About a few months. This is at a really beautiful, inexpensive hotel room in Clinton, Connecticut. And they have massive floor space for a hotel room like this. And we were chasing.
This, Jason and Benyamin also just give random details that are not required. Just random details. Lauren, he is very comfortable with the microphone. Very, very comfortable with the microphone.
Those little cars around all day, these little rev up cars. So this would be the second week of August of 2020 when we were down with my family, as will be depicted more clearly in better photos coming. And my brother-in-law, Nathaniel Lewis, and my sister and her 3 children were all here meeting their cousin. This is in May of 2020.
Is that snow? Why doesn't he have on shoes? But okay. Is that snow? Maybe it's just, no, it's sand. It's a beach. Okay, it's a beach. They're at a beach. I'm sorry. My bad. They're at a beach. I was like, no, they're at a beach. Okay.
This is the sand, the quartz sand.
Yeah.
Of Siesta Key, Sarasota. And we were spending a lot of time there. We were spending time at Nokomis, in Venice Beach, the adjacent smaller beaches, and we would come in her wagon. And you can see what she's doing. See, she's not a passive baby. She would grab the handle of the wagon and look at me like it was the most fun thing to get and smile at Daddy at Dover, just to smile into my eyes and say, look, I'm leading the wagon. She'd do it every day. She'd take hold of the handle.
He's also adding things that at 13 months, because I think she just had fun, and it was probably, I don't think she, and it's okay, but he's gonna add things to it that, okay.
And say, I steer this. This is my wagon. And this is in Clinton, Connecticut again. And you can see, if you want to see her nature, that's her nature. That's her nature.
Was she a happy baby?
She was excited and happy and engaging, and she'd come up to you and want to just learn everything. She'd want to touch you and smile. She'd want to get inside you and let you know that you should be happy too. Grandma threw a tennis ball a little too fast. What? Yeah, that's a picture from, a little bit of the weirder period, where some of the eyes are growing, things are growing a little too fast and out of line. And I know this is the preferred thumbnail for the court, but that was when she was looking a little silly. So that was probably back at about April of 2020. This is my parents' living room, where she would come up to this piano over here, and she had a knack, and she would start. I'd be playing piano. I've been playing piano since I was 3 years old, and I would ensconce her and encompass her in all my music, and she would come in the middle, near the middle C, and she would start doing things that actually made sense. And then she'd look at you and she'd show you she could have a beat. My older daughter, Eiley, has an immense amount of musical talent, but she could never keep a beat, but she would come up with things. But Naima, Hannah Nicole, she could tell where the beat was. She knew where the beat of life was. She knew where to enter the room. She knew where to look at you. She knew where the camera was.
And are those the cars that you spoke of she enjoyed playing with?
No, these are very little cars that you'd pull and they'd zoom around the room. This is actually a toy that I had going back to when I was a child, and it has a revolver inside, like a revolving scoop, and it goes around, and it's funny, it like collects toys into its dump truck. This is a xylophone that was my sister's over here. Little cup. She rode that little Pumobile behind her everywhere in my parents' house, and she was amazing because sometimes as a mother, you wanted to sleep a little bit more. Chloe would go over, Kui would go over, and she would open the bedroom door and lay back down, and she'd thunder down the hallway. She'd just crawl down because we had this whole area on the second floor, safe, the dogs in the kitchen, the stairs over here blocked, and she had this living room up the hallway to the bedrooms, and you'd hear her, my mom still imagines the beauty of her grandchild thundering down the hallway, crawling thunderously. She'd come and she'd play, and my Eiley couldn't leave her for 3 minutes, even when she was 12, 11 months old. Constant attention, not Hannah Nicole. Hannah Nicole, she got in the living.
And so that's where I don't think Jason had the personality style to be a leader I think he, in my opinion, has the personality style of an enforcer, but Z kind of makes sense, which is scary to have, because he has some out there beliefs that I don't think are particularly safe in general for people. I don't recommend joining a cult. Just I don't recommend it.
Room with her stuff. She'd make a story. You could leave her play in there for 20 minutes. She'd make up a world. She'd put the dolls. She had things that 11 months old, 13 months old, she'd be piling cars. She'd be making a whole story and happily playing. And somebody comes, smile, go over, pet the dogs. This was her world. Everything here, Grandma made the entire house her world. That's why we were there.
Sir, the purpose of this hearing today is to give the court an understanding of sort of the impact of the actions of...
Nobody can weigh the potential of the impact. When you lose Grandma and you lose Grandpa and you are not estranged, you have a life, a rich life lived. You have memories. It's painful. It's a natural process and cycle of life. When you lose a baby, and somebody entitles themselves by whatever precipitation, you can get into the moral philosophy if it is okay or not okay. Do you own your life? Can you take your life? But when you entitle yourself by whatever precipitations, by whatever precipitated your mind, without getting into the weeds, to decide you are entitled to take somebody else's life based on your opinion of whatever kind of mental illness, lack of mental illness, acting, pretending you're in mental illness, overlaying, masking, it doesn't matter. There is no wiggle room where you are entitled to take somebody else's life because of your impression or opinion. They are there to live life and discover what life is for themselves. The impact of losing Hannah Nicole, driver Ben Michael, cannot be measured. We sat around in the waves of some luxurious beach somewhere for 2.5 years, speaking tenderly to each other, dreaming our daughter. Before she was born, buying her the highest level, best things, doting on her. Nobody knows. Deanna doesn't know. Jeff doesn't know. Your Honor, you don't know. Nobody knows. She could have grown up and given humanity cures to things we don't even have diseases for yet. How can you measure the potential? How can you look at a father and say, the image I have of a 5-year-old, of a kindergartner, I lost the potential, I lost the view. The most unplanned child, to the most unprepared parents, is a travesty and a tragedy of the highest order that the parents may never be able to even articulate the pain and loss of. Now you're talking about a baby who was not just planned, but planned. A baby who was meant to put their best foot forward. A baby who was taught to have a moral and cultural consciousness that would give to humanity whatever she could possibly find as her niche and knack in the world. To measure the impact and loss privately, I'm a very hard individual. I've lived a very particular life in countries that are not here to get knowledge and find things.
I think that's where he starts getting into some of his other beliefs, I think.
I'm not a good model for initial reactions. In other words, I'm extremely stoic. That doesn't mean there wasn't 13 months after, and every private moment when I screeched like a frightened 7-year-old girl, where I sat for 3 months in a van just screaming and screaming and screaming that this woman believed that she was entitled to take my daughter's life out of this world because she stopped believing in having a moral consciousness and the duty to help humanity, because she believed the girls who were with us, she didn't believe in polygyny. She didn't believe in the girls who were with us. She believed they were reprobate, second class. She believed she put in more.
So right now he is, in my opinion, he's attacking Chloe. And Chloe is, and I think at some point they're going to stop him, but they're going to let him go for a while. At some point they're going to stop him because he's going to start verbally attacking Chloe, in my opinion.
Energy, and people did not reciprocate to her, and she quit around June 3rd, 2020, and planned Hannah's death because she planned to exit the world and take her daughter with her. She may have even abused her and felt that there was some issue on a phone call between taking the girls to Connecticut when she said, if you don't get your ass back down here to the South as quickly as you possibly can, I will throw this baby on the floor because I'm tired.
So I don't know that this did not come into evidence, and I don't know that any of this, I don't know if that's true. Chloe seems to object to what he's saying. I don't know if any of that's true.
Her screaming, and I can't get her to go to sleep the way you do, which was a beautiful segue that I love spending time with my daughter, putting her to sleep. It was like my job to put her against my heart. We spent lots of time rocking and going into sleep, and Chloe just had triggers from being raped and abused as a child, suffocated and jumped on by a drunken Eric driver who caused her to be triggered by sleep. And she doesn't even know it herself. I apologize. I'm very emotional.
I understand. The purpose of this hearing is about Hannah and the loss of Hannah and the
And
impact.
this is the impact on me.
Can you tell the court whether you have any feelings with regard?
Somebody said, why say this? I think this is his one last attack at Chloe. Also, we're going to find out later that Chloe has a new boyfriend that she's been having intimate conversations with on recorded lines. The state has listened to those phone calls and had some concerns, but not just their thing was, during the trial, Chloe was allegedly, but I think that, I don't know, she was having intimate conversations after, like during the trial. I don't know. It's a whole thing.
Nothing that actually happened to her would ever change her. I don't know that no sentence, maximum sentence, could ever get through to her in a way that she won't build a new identity, a new mask, change who she is, manipulate the next party. Chloe Alexis Driver wasn't a victim. She had the most power in our group. It was called her fits.
I think I'm just going to let it play.
I don't know what kind of a sentence would help her. I mean, the inclination to say death penalty, maximum, she believes she could take the life of.
And she is not facing DP. She's not facing that at all. So that's not an option.
A baby out of this world, a baby, any baby, and this beautiful baby who had this much potential to help the world, an impact that can't be weighed. Nearly unlimited potential. Can we see the others? Yeah.
So no other photos were given. The defense is going to talk about that Chloe from the start, she admitted that she did this. Chloe never denied that she did this, but that she said that she wasn't in her right frame of mind. And the state is going to say that she was offered life with the possibility of parole, but the defense wanted the charge to be lowered. And the state would not agree to lowering the charge. And so the state did want life without the possibility of parole. The defense very, like they argued for her to have life with the possibility of parole. Yeah, Dottie, I'm not sure if that was him mass. It was, it didn't surprise me that he was there because he didn't have to be cross-examined because he was asked at the end. The defense was asked if they wanted to cross-examine him on anything, and they were like, "No, we don't have any questions for him." Chloe's family also they did not come in person. It's my understanding that they were planning to go in person. I think her mother and her father they did not go. This is in the state of Georgia, and Chloe is facing life with the possibility of parole. And in Georgia, life is 30 years. And then you have the possibility for parole or life without the possibility of parole. I also agree that I think he met her at a time when she was very vulnerable. I do think her tears were real. She is going to give the statement. The state had concerns about her messages between the individual, and so yeah, I don't think. And then he is going to let out some like sniffle, but so I'm going to play this part. I'm going to play this
condition and send shirks such as "I'm stressed, talk dirty to me" is appalling.
And it could get more graphic. I'm not sure.
To the state, and it should be appalling to this court. And it demonstrates that she has absolved herself of any responsibility in this and not.
Like, I think he needs attention. Like, why did he have to blow his nose that hard? Like, why? Why? Like, I think he wants to make this about him. And it just it was so unnecessary. Like when I listened to it live, I rewinded it because I was like, was that just me or was that no? Like and I think it was for attention. Like I think he wants this to be about him and it's not. This is about Hannah. The defense is going to be upset about, what the state said, and they're going to make their points. And then Chloe is going to give her statement. I did want to play her statement.
Their oath, please.
Want me here? Listen. Okay. All right, Chloe, for the first thing I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you raise your right hand. Do you swear the information and testimony you're about to give this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. You're going to have to speak up. I know that you're fairly soft-spoken, so are you able to get that? All right, go ahead.
I appreciate the opportunity to be heard during this whole process. I am terribly sorry for many things in my life, but most of all for who was lost, and I always will be. Every single day I live with my guilt. I have drowned in sorrow and regret with such an acute awareness of it for so long. I never imagined there would be anything more than that for me. Quite frankly, I didn't believe I deserved anything more than just that. In the past, I genuinely believed I had to die every day for my daughter, to hate myself for my failure in protecting her. But I know now that life goes on whether I suffer or not, so I need to stop taking from it. I know now that I must live for my daughter instead and do the best I can to be kind and loving and giving, because that's exactly what being with Hannah taught me. I see her everywhere, in everything. She lives on and shows me that beauty can be found anywhere, even where I'm going, because I can feel her in my tears. I feel her in my friend's embrace. I see her in a stranger's kindness, in someone's undiluted joy at seeing their loved one. I hear her in people's laughter, and I know her most of all in my family's loyal love for me, even still. No matter how bad our losses, life can be good again, and this is not my end. I accept my punishment with peace, and I want it to be known for every person that has prayed for me, that our Father has heard you, and I have been given a contentment that the world cannot take away. My daughter's memory rests now, so I am able to as well. I want it to be said that no one ever plans to lose control of their own mind. This trial was only a snapshot of my life and mind. It's easy to review the past and say what could have been done differently. It's even easier to say what someone should have done. But that's just it. In the midst of a terrifying situation, you can't actually think. The horror and fear you feel clouds your thinking abilities and disconnects you from reality. So though I may not legally meet the definition of insanity as of today, I know in the bottom of my heart that I was, because I never would have done what I did had it not been for my decompensation. In the end, we can't go back and undo the bad, no matter how much we want to, but we can learn from it and prevent it from happening again. I will continue to seek help for my mental illness because of this. I read once that suffering is cheap as clay and twice as common. What matters, though, is what each man makes of it, and I promise I will make the best of whatever you give me, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. So then the judge makes her remarks. I want to play the beginning part of it. Let's see. All right. Let's go ahead and play this.
And my only real discretion in this case is whether to sentence you to life without parole or life with the possibility of parole. I am aware, as Mr. Hathaway pointed out, that the parole eligibility in this state would dictate that you would serve 30 years of a life sentence before you were considered for parole. This was a heinous offense with evidence that was so graphic and traumatic that I began to do research on what kind of support and help we could give the jurors who were having.
And so that I thought, so that stood out to me. The evidence in this case was so graphic that the judge wanted to make sure that the jury was adequate, was taken care of. Wow.
To consider it. A parent killing a child is something that just offends us on the deepest level. It is a wrong that just is unfathomable. It just cannot be understood. And it scares us because it is so contrary to just fundamental moral behavior and what we expect of the bonds between human beings. And I have all those thoughts. I have had all those thoughts in this case. I noticed throughout the trial and considered it as part of the tragedy, quite honestly, that there were real.
And so the judge is going to go into the fact that Hannah her plan was to not survive this, and that it could have been a unaliving self and somebody else. Like it could have been a capital M sewer. It could have been that. And that really was her plan. And the judge also made a comment that right now that the laws regarding insanity were written, I think she said like 100 years ago. This judge gave a really good job explaining the law. And on the very first day of trial, she explained to the jury kind of the history of why we have jury trials. I have that on my very first video covering the case. I thought that was really cool. I had never heard a judge explain that to a jury, that really it was to give some power back to the people, so that the judicial system wouldn't have all the power. Okay, the judge said it was somewhere around maybe 200, but that the laws regarding insanity are older, and that things have changed related to mental health. And the judge did sentence her to life with the possibility of parole. The judge did mention the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, and that diagnosis never, to my knowledge, I don't think it ever came up during any of her psychological testing. And but the judge just threw out that diagnosis as an example. But I thought it was interesting that the judge gave that specific example in this case. And I do just hope that Chloe gets some treatment. And but in jail, her options are going to be limited. It sounds like the defense team, her defense attorney is passionate, and the defense attorney talked about being with her from when she was discharged from the hospital on watch, and that she remained on watch for a period of time. And I'm not sure where the judge got that from. So I heard 100. Somebody else heard 200. Yeah, none of the therapists said BPD. The judge just listed that diagnosis as she was describing things. I have a 2:00, and so that's where I'm not able to play everything at the end. But she did sentence her to life with the possibility of parole. If you would like the full link to check out the rest, and really that was all that the judge did. And yeah, this was a very, very sad case. And I thank you all for watching it with me. I will be covering Sarah Boone's new letter on Saturday. So on Saturday, we will be talking about Sarah Boone's idea of forgiveness. Forgiveness and her attack of the court and all of that. We will be talking about that on Saturday. I appreciate you all. And I will see y'all next time. Have a good one. Bye.